78% of Americans are projected to be living paycheck to paycheck by the time they reach retirement age, despite earning millions of dollars over their working careers. That's not a prediction about the future. That's what the numbers already show us is happening right now. You know that feeling when you check your bank account and wonder where all your money went, even though you swear you were being careful this month. You're not alone, and more importantly, you're not broken. What's happening to your money isn't a character flaw or a lack of willpower. It's the result of subtle, often invisible psychological forces that most people never learn to recognize, let alone overcome. Here's what most people believe about money. They think wealth building is about earning more, spending less, and maybe getting lucky with investments. They assume rich people have some secret knowledge or special opportunities that regular folks can't access. They believe financial success comes down to discipline, budgeting apps, and cutting out coffee purchases. But here's where things start to shift. The real reason many Americans are broke has nothing to do with income levels, spending habits, or even economic conditions. Research shows that people earning six figures often have less wealth than those making half as much. Studies suggest that lottery winners frequently end up poorer than before they won. Behavioral economists have found that our relationship with money is determined by psychological patterns that operate completely below conscious awareness. Think about this for a second. You probably know someone who makes great money but always seems stressed about finances. Maybe they drive an expensive car and live in a nice house, but they're constantly worried about bills. At the same time, you might know someone else who makes modest income but somehow seems completely relaxed about money. They never appear stressed about unexpected expenses, and they always seem to have options when opportunities arise. The difference isn't what you think it is. Most people operate from what psychologists call scarcity programming. This isn't about being poor or having limited resources. Scarcity programming is a mental operating system that views money as something that disappears, opportunities as rare, and financial security as something that happens to other people. When your brain runs scarcity programming, every financial decision gets filtered through fear and limitation. But here's the part nobody talks about. Scarcity programming doesn't come from being broke. It comes from the way our brains evolved to handle survival threats. For thousands of years, humans lived in environments where resources were genuinely scarce. Food was uncertain, shelter was temporary, and security was fragile. Our ancestors developed mental patterns designed to hoard resources, avoid risks, and prepare for the worst possible outcomes. These survival patterns saved our species, but they're completely inappropriate for modern financial reality. In today's world, the biggest financial risk can come from being too conservative, not too aggressive. The greatest threat to your financial future isn't losing money on investments, it's inflation gradually reducing your purchasing power while your money sits in savings accounts earning nothing. Yet most people's brains still operate like they're living in ancient times. When someone with scarcity programming looks at their bank account, they see a number that could disappear at any moment. When they consider investing, their brain sends strong caution signals about losing everything. When opportunities arise, they focus on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. They make financial decisions based on fear instead of strategy, and they wonder why their money never seems to grow. This is where everything flips. Wealthy people don't have different opportunities or secret knowledge. They have different mental programming. Instead of scarcity programming, they operate from what researchers call abundance programming. This doesn't mean they're reckless or naive about risk. It means their brains are wired to see money as a tool that multiplies, opportunities as abundant, and wealth building as a learnable skill. Here's the shift wealthy people make that most people never do. They stop thinking about money as something they need to protect and start thinking about it as something they need to deploy. Instead of asking, how do I avoid losing money? They ask, how do I put my money to work? Instead of seeing expenses as threats to their security, they see them as investments in their future earning potential. Instead of hoarding cash out of fear, they understand that keeping money idle is actually one of the riskiest financial strategies of all. This mental shift changes everything about how they approach financial decisions. When someone with abundance programming gets a raise, they immediately think about how to invest the extra income to create even more income. When they see their bank account growing, they start looking for ways to make that money work harder. When opportunities arise, they calculate potential returns instead of potential losses. Most people get this next part completely wrong. They think abundance programming means being careless with money or taking unnecessary risks. But the opposite is true. People with abundance programming are actually more careful with money because they understand its true potential. They're not willing to waste money on things that don't create value because they see every dollar as a potential investment in their future. Think of it like this. Imagine you had a magical seed that would grow into a tree producing fruit worth $1,000 every year for the rest of your life. How carefully would you protect that seed? How thoughtfully would you choose where to plant it? That's how people with abundance programming think about every dollar they earn. Meanwhile, most people treat money like it's already dead. They spend it on things that provide temporary pleasure but create no lasting value. They let it sit in checking accounts where inflation slowly erodes its purchasing power. They make financial decisions based on monthly payment amounts instead of total cost of ownership. They focus on saving money instead of growing money, not realizing these are completely different skills. And the crazy part is what happens after this. Once you understand the difference between scarcity and abundance programming, you start seeing these patterns everywhere. You notice how people with scarcity programming talk about money using language like afford, can't, and expensive. They focus on what they're giving up instead of what they're gaining. They make decisions based on fear instead of opportunity. People with abundance programming use completely different language. They talk about investing, returns, and value. They focus on what they're building instead of what they're spending. They make decisions based on potential outcomes instead of immediate costs. Here's where things get interesting. Let me show you what this looks like in real numbers, because this is where most people have their breakthrough moment. Imagine two people, both earning $60,000 per year. Person A has scarcity programming and focuses on saving money. Person B has abundance programming and focuses on growing money. Person A manages to save $500 every month by cutting expenses and living frugally. After 10 years, they have $60,000 in savings. They feel proud of their discipline and sacrifice. Person B invests the same $500 every month in a diversified portfolio, earning 8% annually. After 10 years, they have over $90,000. Same income, same monthly amount, but $30,000 more wealth. But this is the moment everything changes. The real difference isn't the $30,000. It's what happens next. Person A with scarcity programming looks at their $60,000 and thinks about protecting it. They worry about market crashes and economic uncertainty. They keep it in low-yield savings accounts where inflation slowly chips away at its value. Person B with abundance programming looks at their $90,000 and sees momentum. They understand that their money is now working alongside their monthly contributions. In year 11, their investments generate over $7,000 in returns, even if they don't add another penny. That's more than they were able to save in their first year of working. By year 20, Person A has about $120,000. Person B has nearly $300,000. Same starting point, same income, same monthly contribution. The only difference was mental programming. Most people click away by now. If you're still here, you're not most people. Welcome. This accelerating wealth curve is what separates people who build generational wealth from people who work their entire lives but never get ahead. It's not about having more money to start with or earning a higher income. It's about understanding that money has the potential to multiply if you create the right conditions for growth. But here's the twist most people never see coming. The hardest part of building wealth isn't learning about investments or finding the right opportunities. It's rewiring your brain to think differently about money itself. Most people can learn the mechanics of investing in a weekend, but changing decades of scarcity programming can take years of conscious effort. This is why financial education alone doesn't work. You can teach someone about compound interest and portfolio theory, but if they still have scarcity programming, they'll find reasons to avoid taking action. They'll focus on worst-case scenarios instead of probable outcomes. They'll wait for perfect conditions that never arrive instead of starting with what they have right now. And this is where the story turns uncomfortable. The financial industry has built an entire ecosystem that often reinforces scarcity programming. Credit cards offer easy access to money you don't have. Car dealerships focus on monthly payments instead of total cost. Investment companies create complex products that sound sophisticated but serve their interests more than yours. Meanwhile, the strategies that actually build wealth are surprisingly simple. They just require abundance programming to implement consistently over time. The wealthiest 1% of Americans control more money than the bottom 50% combined. Yet most millionaires still feel financially insecure and worry about maintaining long-term stability. This psychological paradox reveals something profound about how our brains process wealth that explains why most people stay broke regardless of how much they earn. Research shows that financial anxiety doesn't correlate with actual net worth, the way most people assume. Studies suggest that people worth millions often experience similar levels of money stress as those living paycheck to paycheck. Behavioral economists have found that our relationship with financial security operates on psychological mechanisms that aren't always directly tied to the numbers in our bank accounts. This discovery changes a great deal about how we understand wealth building, because it means the real barrier to financial freedom isn't earning more money or finding better investment strategies. It's rewiring the mental patterns that determine how we process financial information itself. Here's what most people believe creates financial security. They think wealth is about accumulating enough assets to feel safe. They assume rich people sleep better at night because they have more zeros in their accounts. They believe financial stress disappears once you cross certain income thresholds or net worth milestones. But here's where things start to shift. The data reveals something completely counterintuitive. Surveys of high net worth individuals show that many people worth over $5 million still worry about having enough money for retirement. Meanwhile, some people with modest savings report feeling completely secure about their financial future. The difference isn't mathematical, it's psychological. This phenomenon has a name in behavioral psychology. It's called the hedonic treadmill, and it affects how our brains process financial achievement. When you reach a financial goal that once seemed impossible, your brain doesn't celebrate for long. Instead, it recalibrates what feels normal and starts focusing on the next level of security or status that you haven't achieved yet. Think about this from your own experience. Remember the last time you got a significant raise or bonus. For maybe a week or two, you felt like you had finally made it. You imagine how this extra money would change everything about your financial stress. Then what happened? Within a month, that new income level felt normal, and you were back to worrying about money just like before. But here's the part nobody talks about. This psychological pattern doesn't just affect how we feel about money we already have. It fundamentally changes how we make decisions about money we haven't earned yet. When your brain is trapped on the hedonic treadmill, every financial choice gets filtered through the assumption that more money will eventually solve your anxiety. This creates a cycle where people constantly chase the next income level or investment return, believing it will finally provide the security they're seeking. Meanwhile, they miss the real solution entirely. The solution isn't more money or better strategies. It's learning to step off the psychological treadmill that keeps you chasing the next financial milestone while missing the abundance that's already within reach. The future version of you is already grateful for the decision you make today.